It is Monday. This is not Monday. It's going to be Friday in three, two. God almighty, I'm trying to restart the week on us. Sorry, boys. That would have been a real kick in the balls. Three. It is Friday, December 6th, 2024. This is another edition of Football Today, presented to you by Captain Morgan, the official spiced rum of the NFL. You know those dudes. Justin Penik, Bobby Skinner. I am Chris Rose. Producer Connor along for the ride as well. Guys, we thought it might be the game of the year on Thursday night, and I think it might have been. Lions 34, Packers 31. Bates 35-yard field goals, time expires. Lions punching their postseason ticket. They improved to 12-1. They have won 11 straight. But Bobby, I know you want to start right at the end where Dan Campbell elected to go for it on fourth down when he could have kicked like a 37-yard field goal to give him the lead with less than a minute to go. Didn't you think he was nuts to go for it?
Yes, and I don't want to focus too much on that because they won and they're the best team in the NFC. In my opinion, they're the best team in the NFL. But I do think that is crazy, right? And it's not just being a meathead. Like I went to the fourth down bot, which I hate, by the way. I hate the fourth down bot. And even that was like strong kick. Like that's a strong recommendation to kick the field goal. It's just I didn't think the juice was worth the squeeze there, but it ends up working out, so we don't have to sit here and debate that for 10 minutes. We could just talk about how the Lions are the best team in the NFL.
Except that you have to a little bit, just because it's exactly who he's been, right? They have gone for it more on fourth down than any other team since he became the head coach of the Detroit Lions. People will mention it last year in the NFC title game where if Josh Reynolds hangs on to the pass, who knows, maybe they punch their ticket to their first Super Bowl. Penik, does it bother you that is a part of his DNA, or do we just have to accept it as football fans?
We have to accept it as football fans because I think that's where football's heading and that's where football's going. That I think
that last play not.
No. The last play not. That's
the discussion
honestly
should be is they went for it on fourth and goal and got a touchdown, right? So plus 4 points, but then they went for it on the fourth down on their own 30, and then the Packers get a quick 30-yard touchdown drive.
Right.
So on the night they're down 3, but on the season and last season they're up a lot by going for it on fourth down.
But I mean, there's not every single NFL team that could do what the Lions do, and that's absolutely just kick ass on the front. I mean, and that's what they do. It's what their identity is. That's why they can get away with having a bit of an imperfect game, and even a game where, hey, I mean, Chris Rose, I know you're going to roll your eyes at me, but you know the Packers had a better EPA per play. They were more efficient as an offense than the Lions were, even though the Lions are walking away with the victory. With the victory of this game, the Packers, barely ran any plays like in the first quarter. So. They can get away with it because they're the Lions, and there's not a lot of. And even though I think the NFL is heading in a direction where there's going to be coaches that are going to be more open to going for it on fourth down and being aggressive, not every team can do what the Detroit Lions can do, though.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. The thing I was most excited about is I feel like if we get this, whether it's in the divisional round or in the NFC title game, like I think it's awesome because I don't know who's going to win. I really believe that Green Bay is ascending. In fact, in their last 9 games, everybody wants to talk about Detroit's 11-game winning streak. The Packers in their last 9 games are 7-2. Those 2 losses are to Detroit, and that is it. But I still think that they could figure out a way to win in Detroit come late January. I could see that happening, Bobby.
Well, for Detroit, it's hard to. People laugh at this cliche, but it's hard to beat a team 3 times. And especially a really good team like the Green Bay Packers. So, I think that will be an any given Sunday. But I will say this: I am so confident that the Lions are the best team in the NFL. Like the Packers, I don't think are, like I'm not going to say like the Packers are a series away from being the best team in the NFL. I think the Lions are. I don't think they played a great game tonight. Their run game wasn't kicking. Jared Goff throws an interception that gives them a 16-yard touchdown drive. I thought they played a kind of a imperfect game, yet they dropped 34. They're missing guys on defense, and I guess they didn't have a good game defensively. But I come away from this game feeling confident in that. And I'll be honest, no matter what was happening in the game, from minute 1 to minute 60, I always felt like Detroit was going to win this game. Like there was never a doubt in my mind. I don't know if I'm a cocky Detroit Lions fan now or what, but I have so much faith in this team to figure it out no matter what.
For me, the biggest shortcoming for Green Bay is that it feels like when they've needed to get a defensive stop at some point in a big game, and over the last 2 months, that's been in big games against Detroit, they haven't been able to do it. Like that was the difference, is that I just felt like they could not stop. And part of that is to the credit of Jared Goff, man. He stood in there. Even that last drive, he just ripped it right out of the gate, threw one to the sideline, got him, 15 to 17 yards or whatever that was. Got some nice movement down the field. Stood in there on the play where McDuffie got picked up on a blitz by
Yep.
David Montgomery, but he was quick enough to still get in Goff's face, and Goff threw a strike. And that's the thing about Jared Goff. You're never going to pick him as one of the top 10 quarterbacks, it feels like, in the NFL. But when he needs to make a critical throw over these last 2 seasons, it feels like he's done it.
And I feel like that offensive line allows you to do so. That's part of the confidence. Like, all right, where they run, they're going to be able to get it. If they pass, they're going to have time for whatever receiver they're trying to target to find his way open. Me and Justin were talking earlier today about, Ben Johnson and his head coaching, desires. And I'm like, I think he could be a great coach. I'm not 100% sure, because that offensive line allows you to do whatever you want. How easy it is, to drop offensive play calls when you get 4 seconds, you can count on. Now, like you mentioned, the Packers had some nice blitzes by McDuffie that hurried it up. But that offensive line gives you just the utmost confidence for them to do whatever they want offensively. It truly feels like it. 3rd and 15, and you feel like the Lions are going to convert.
Okay, let me ask you this, Penik. We all think that the Lions are the best team in the NFL. Let's just focus on the NFC. How much of a gap is there between Detroit and Philadelphia, and then Philadelphia and whomever is next? I think it's Green Bay.
I'm leaning Green Bay 2, Philly 3, and then the gap being that wide there. And honestly, I think Green Bay's closer to the Lions than Green Bay's closer to Philly. And I put it right now. I posed this question on Twitter tonight. I think right now, I think the Packers and Eagles are talented similarly. But you see the throws that Jordan Love is making down the stretch. He's taking better care of the football down the stretch. And I understand Saquon Barkley's going off. Second half Saquon Barkley is a thing. Fourth quarter Barkley is a thing. Who would you rather have making a big throw for you in the postseason and the playoffs? Is it Jalen Hurts, who I understand he had a good Super Bowl, one of the best performances in the Super Bowl and a loss, but look at the most recent history? I would rather have Jordan Love making throws for me in the postseason down the stretch and when it comes down to the wire than Jalen Hurts, and I think that's the difference right now between those two teams.
So go ahead, Bobby.
I'm starting to fall back in love with Jordan Love, where it's like, it's like he has that. He started rough last year, and then he has playoffs, and I kind of love this, but is it sustainable? And then the beginning of this year wasn't rough, but it wasn't pretty, and now I'm falling back in it. Yeah. I don't think we should discount the Minnesota Vikings when we get into this conversation either. And honestly, I know the Green Bay Packers can beat any team in the NFC. They can beat any team in the NFL. They've lost to every team ahead of them in the standings, and the Packers or the Lions twice, the Vikings, and the Philadelphia Eagles. I know the Eagles was week 1, but the Eagles are arguably a much better team than what they were week 1 as well. So I need to see the Packers win, beat one of those teams, beat Minnesota in your next matchup, because I think because of Sam Darnold we throw Minnesota away, but that team can play some fucking football, and I think they're gonna be hard to prepare for.
But I will say this, and answer your question, Penik, about who you'd rather have throwing the football. If it's in Philadelphia, I'll still take Jalen Hurts, because I just think playing in that environment is really, really tough in mid-January. But I still think that Green Bay has a better chance of beating Detroit in Detroit than Philadelphia does. I just don't know if they can get there. That's all.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way it is. But it was an awesome game. It was a ton of fun. I think we're all guilty of this. Sometimes in games we're like, oh, if the guy had just made that play, or if that had happened. This had a little bit of everything. And I just thought it was a fun watch, and that's what we should be looking forward to when we get to January. It's not all these missed opportunities, but rather quarterbacks making throws, stops when we need to, coaching decisions that have us on the edge of our seat. Like, that shit was fun.
Yeah,
So
it was a good product. Like,
great.
More than the storylines that come out of this game, I almost wanted half of this conversation to be about the product that we got tonight, because I feel like so often we watch football and games are. We talk about mistakes, like you said, Robies. We talk about mistakes. We talk about those missed opportunities. We talk about how somebody effed up here, somebody effed up there, somebody made a mistake, somebody's not well coached here, a flag, whatever. That none of that was here. We had good coaching. We had good football players. It was a physical game too. I don't know if you felt that.
Woo.
Up front, on offense, on defense. Obviously, you have those Detroit receivers that go out and they block their ass off too. And then even running backs in pass pro and pass protection too. This was a physical, good all-around football game. So good for the NFL putting out good for the NFL putting out a really good product.
Linebackers were putting dudes on their ass. You know, McDuffie, Jack Campbell. It was like they like Justin said, there was a physicality that you could feel through the screen in this game.
Yeah, and by the way, what about Tucker Kraft with that move where he reversed matrix that thing? That was insane.
Love it. I love it.
Smokes. It was great.
South Dakota energy.
Congratulations, Detroit Lions, punching their playoff ticket for the second straight year, and they have won 11 straight for the first time in franchise history. All right, you know what we all need a little bit more of? To get off our ass, kind of like what Tucker Kraft did. With bold flavors and a refreshing citrus kick, Mountain Dew is going to get you off your ass. Have you feeling like you're on an actual mountain? A mountain where the weather is always perfect. Your friends are ready to hang, and a day of epic proportions awaits. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to go outside, figure out something that is equal parts fun and competition. Talking about a long drive contest, a three-point shooting contest, free throw contest. If you like Frisbee golf, video games, if you got a monitor set up outside, throw your gamer gear on and go do that. You could play kickball, you could play wiffle ball, you could play pickleball, you could play blitz ball, you could play any kind of ball out there. Why? Because the mountain is calling and you should answer. So grab your friends, grab an ice cold Mountain Dew, wherever refreshing beverages are sold, and do the do. Didn't I just mention blitzball? I sure did. It is coming your way once again this Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. We got another playoff game coming your way.
We are back at the warehouse. We continue on with our final quarterfinal matchup. We've got Woogas taking on Team Baggage. Oh, last season, we all remember what happened in this one. Dan Rourke with a walk-off grand slam off the boss man, Jimmy O'Brien, where he seemingly melted into the cement.
It was cinematic, and I know Jimmy's out for revenge. The story is, what is Baggage going to do? I feel like Jake has unlocked something on the mound. Jimmy's definitely feeling better at the plate, so there's a lot to watch out for in this game.
Dare I say, Jimmy O'Brien is the league's leading hitter. All right, Kelsey Wingard, who do you have in this one?
Like I told you guys recently, I continue to pick Baggage in every single game I think they've ever played in the warehouse. My heart goes with Team Baggage. My brain is going with Woogas, guys.
Woogas for me too. I think Jimmy Norp is a force.
I picked Team Baggage to win this whole thing. I don't know why. I wanted to be different, but here we are. We'll see you later. Blitzball Battle 5, presented to you by DraftKings.
Once again, we will see you in the chat this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Speaking of Sunday night football, our next topic, the Chargers and the Chiefs. The Chiefs with a win will win their 9th straight AFC West crown, which is pretty incredible. The Chargers, in the meantime, in the thick of the playoff race right there in the AFC. But my question to you, Bobby Skinner, is this a bigger deal for the Chiefs to keep things going and to keep a little distance between themselves and the Buffalo Bills for that number 1 overall seed in the AFC? Or is it more important for Jim Harbaugh and his crew to prove that they can beat one of the top dogs when it gets to the playoffs?
I think it's much more important for the Chargers, and I've talked about how I don't even think home field advantage is that big of a deal when it comes to the Bills and the Chiefs, because both do well on the road, both do well in bad weather. But the Chargers, they're 7-1 against teams that are 500 and worse, with a win over the 500 Falcons and a loss to the 500 Cardinals. They're 1-3 against teams over 500, and I think this is the time of year where you start actually not just looking at are you winning, is how are you playing against good teams and how are you against bad teams, and we decide, how good you are. You need to split with the Chiefs, right? If the Chiefs split with the Chargers, it's no big deal. If the Chargers get swept by the Chiefs, that feels pretty bad for them. And this time, Herbert's not going to be banged up. You're going to have Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater like you didn't have. You want to be a team that can compete in the playoffs. Go beat the Chiefs. Go beat the Chiefs this time and get like your signature win of this first year, Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, I'm with Bobby 100%. You know, we on our Wednesday episode, you know, we kind of talked about Chargers versus the Ravens. We power ranked the wild card teams in both conferences, and I think the way that the Chargers play football, even though they don't have a good record against teams above 500, I think the way that the Chargers are playing football right now, and you combine that with their coaching, you combine that with the quarterback play, I think this is a team that maybe can win a postseason game or two, and maybe go on a little bit of a run versus even a team like, you know, I'm even a little iffy right now on the Ravens. So this is a huge game for those Chargers against, you know, the number one seed in the AFC right now, Kansas City Chiefs, that kind of win games in a similar way that the Chargers are looking to win it too. This would be a huge game for them to kind of pull out and be a statement win. It's a huge game, especially for those wide receivers. Can you get open against the secondary? Because that's probably the most concerning thing. We know that they can run the ball. We know that they can play solid to good enough defense, but we know that we need those wide receivers to get open. We need those wide receivers to catch the freaking ball too.
I will say this about the Chargers. You look at their schedule, who's the best quarterback that they've taken down this year? I mean, it is Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow came back and put nearly 30 points on him, right?
Yeah.
But other than that, they didn't beat Lamar. They didn't beat Mahomes. They didn't play Russell Wilson earlier this year when they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They beat Bo Nix when he still was trying to figure things out in week 5. I look at the rest of this, you know, they beat Kirk Cousins, who's playing terrible football right now. They have not played a lot of elite quarterbacks, and you're going to run into that in the AFC, even if it's early in the playoffs. I mean, the Houston Texans have been one of the bigger disappointments, and they're going to waltz into the playoffs. But do you really want to face C.J. Stroud come playoff time? I mean, I think he can figure it out. You're going to have to beat one or two quarterbacks in order to work your way just to the AFC Championship. And they just haven't done that on a consistent basis. So, yes, I want to see that. The other side of this is that the Chiefs, they're 11-1, and everybody treats them like they're some shitbag team. Really, I mean, we look at them, we're like, well, look at the way they win now. You know, they're the Chiefs. If any other team was 11-1, we would be like, my God, what an amazing job they're doing. It must be this incredible coaching job. Their quarterback must be playing at an elite MVP level. And we look at them, we're like, they suck. Like, they're never going to make it out of the AFC. Really, have we ever treated an 11-1 team the way that we do, Bobby, the Kansas City Chiefs?
Maybe some like Patriots teams back then, but that's just because we've gotten kind of bored with one, them winning, and then two, like you said, like their style of play is not as flashy as some Chiefs teams that we've seen. Like, we're kind of just, it's a wait till we get to the playoffs type of team, which I think the Patriots kind of became when they made, 8 straight AFC championship games or whatever that number ended up being. So, but again, like we're comparing them to the greatest dynasty of all times, and rightfully so. Like, you really shouldn't be overly focused on how the Chiefs are winning, because we know that they can turn it on the playoffs. Yeah. And they're turning it on in the regular season by winning all these games. Even though some have been, like, people joke about Chiefs having devil magic, there have been some games, like the Raiders game last week, the blocked field goal again. Like, there has been a little bit of devil magic. It's like, how do they keep doing this?
Yeah, but they count. I mean,
yeah, but it's not simply. There's been some wild end of game things that have had, the Bengals with the pass interference, where the safety just comes and just lights up the wide receiver. But it
just happened.
They're
JPJ.
still my favorite for the AFC at the end of the day.
It even just happened on Black Friday. You have the
Raiders game,
right?
Jackson Powers Johnson with the bad snap. It's like, of course, the one thing that can't happen.
All right, so I don't even want to ask. That's why I'm stuttering all over myself. Penik, can you give us an update on our predictions?
Oh, yes, I can. Yes, I can. I had a bye week, and it actually works out because I think a couple of us have had bye weeks at certain points, so it's evening out.
My best week was a bye week on spread picks.
Yeah. And thanks to our associate producer, Rich Blunk, for continuing to update the standings. Rich, if you ever go anywhere, we're done. We're through. Bobby went 9 for 12 last week.
Very good.
Rose, you went 500, 6 for 12. And then, like I mentioned, I have a bye. So our season totals, I have a 60.5% winning percentage, 53.6% for Bobby Skinner, and Chris Rose, you have 53.3%. So it's tight between Rose and Bobby as we approach the final stretch of the regular season.
All right.
I have a
God
comfortable.
damn it. All right, let's do this.
7% lead.
Let's make some picks. Penik, since you're leading the class, I feel like this is the old movie Animal House. For those of you that never saw it, it's a classic from the 70s, and they were a horrible, horrible fraternity where they had a terrible GPA. So you're the top. You're like the valedictorian of this class right now. You get to go first.
Let's change some things up. Let's change some mojo up. And at the beginning of the season, I'm like, I don't know if I believe in these Chargers. They don't have talent. Well, they don't have a ton of talent, but I believe in the way that they're playing football right now. Give me the Chargers. Statement win against those Chiefs.
Yeah, Chargers, they split with the Chiefs this year. It's part of, they lost to them by 7. Felt like they were going to win that game without Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater and Justin Herbert banged up. Chargers get this win. These teams always play each other tight regardless.
I'm worried about no J.K. Dobbins for the foreseeable future, placed on IR. I'm wondering who's going to end up running the ball out there effectively. Plus, Patrick Mahomes, 34-5 against the AFC West. So I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. And, yeah, you can have a little more of that hocus pocus if that's the deal. That's fine. We still got a few more games to go, some more predictions. Ugh. But first, this word from my boy Penik.
Oh, this episode is brought to you by Captain Morgan, the official spice rum of the NFL. I got to give you an update on the Captain Morgan Playmakers Fantasy League, and to my surprise, I am 6-7. I have a playoff berth right now, and I am going up against Team Talkin' Jake, who is 7-6, that has the 5th seed this week. So I'll tell you what, all depends on what happens behind me, but if I win, I'm in. I control my own destiny this week. I got to make some waiver wire moves because I had some guys that were hurt, limited rosters, yada yada yada. I got to add a flex this week that I feel better about, so I'm not doubling up on starting tight ends. Which, hey, if you're a fantasy football player, you know that's not great. The Office, Lucas DeVers is leading the way at 10-3. Dalton Philly's 9-4. Zoe Demalia, who took this very very seriously, is 9-4. Shelfie is 7-6. Talkin' Jake is 7-6 as well. I am 6-7, and I have the tiebreaker over Jolly Olive, who is 6-7 as well on a 4-game losing streak. That is your Captain Morgan Playmakers League fantasy update. Thank you to Captain Morgan for allowing us to have this fantasy league. It's been a lot of fun. Visit followthecaptain.com for more. Please drink responsibly. Captain Morgan Rum Company in New York, New York. Original spice rum, 35% alcohol by volume. Captain Morgan Rum Company in New York, New York. Fellas, you will be glad you did.
We're rooting for you, man. Let's go. We're rooting for you.
I'm rooting against him.
Oh,
Wow.
You know what? You're brutal.
Rooting for Jake.
Gentlemen.
No, I'm
last
not rooting
thing-
for him either.
Last thing we're going to hit. Are you more interested in the 2 games involving the top 3 teams in the NFC West? That's Seattle at Arizona and the Rams playing host to Buffalo. Or Kirk Cousins' perhaps triumphant return to the Twin Cities, Bobby Skinner?
This is a fucking storyline we got with the Falcons and Minnesota. Like, listen, I love the Rams draft class. I'd love to see them in the playoffs. Kyler getting his second playoff appearance would be interesting. The Seahawks are a talented team, but I'm really not interested in the NFC West that much unless the 49ers rally and scrap their way in. The Falcons are in first place, and people are talking about benching their $180 million quarterback in the first year of his contract. He's playing his team of 6 years with the Minnesota Vikings. They're tied for first place in the division with the Bucs. The Bucs are playing the Raiders and trying to take away first place. You're playing the 10-2 Minnesota Vikings, by the way. The Bucs will be favored in 4 of their last 5 games. You'll only be favored in 3 of their last 5, and you've lost 3 straight coming off of a 4-interception game. I feel like Falcons Vikings is a huge storyline this week.
I am rooting so hard for the Tampa Bay Bucks to win the South. I do not want to see this Atlanta Falcon team get their ass kicked in a wild card game because their defense is boring. Because what was the point in doing all this with Kirk Cousins if you're going to be half pregnant at this point in the year where they're leading the NFC South? Okay, so they're 6-6. Maybe the year's not going completely the way that they thought. But they were half pregnant when they picked Michael Penix. And now you're 6-6 leading the NFC South in early December, and there's, we're going to trade him. We're moving off. We're going to bench him because we're not liking the. What's the point, man? What was the point of doing this? I do not want to see this Falcons team in the playoffs. I do not want to spend 3 hours being like, oh, I'm excited. I'm not going to act like I'm to be excited to see this Falcons team in the playoffs. It's interesting to see how Kirk Cousins is going to finish the season because I think he's going to be traded this offseason. And then where is he going to go? To my Giants. No, he's not.
Well, we'll have to see if that whole trade thing works out in terms of dead cap and things of that nature.
Yeah.
That could add an ugly chapter to that side of things.
You're keep him.
Bobby, you nailed it. I mean, in terms of interest level this week, it's definitely what's happening in Minnesota because isn't this the game that the Falcons picked up Kirk Cousins for? Like, this is the one. Your season is sliding away. You have lost 3 straight. You have gone from 6-3 to 6-6. Your quarterback, for the first time in his career, has failed to throw a touchdown pass in the last 3 games. And oh, by the way, he's coming off a 4-interception game, and he's got 6 picks during this 3-game losing streak. You're going up to face Brian Flores and one of the toughest defenses to prepare for in the NFL. Everything is against you. So this is the time that Kirk Cousins should throw that old superhero costume up. Maybe he's still renting out his house in Minneapolis and he can go back into a closet and go pick that thing up on the way to the stadium because he's got to play better football, and this is the time we're expecting them to go the other direction, to fall under 500. And I don't know if it's going to happen. I actually think that the Falcons could get a shocking road win here. You know what? I'm going to make my stand with my 53% success rate on picking games and go with we should get extra points, by the way, when you're picking a shitty team that's going the wrong direction against a 10-2 team. I should be able to pick up like 12 or 13 extra percentage points by taking the Falcons this week.
I agree. I think we should both get extra points because I'm picking the Falcons as well, too. And this was my point last year in the touchdown draft when I was getting like I predicted Jake Bobo to get a touchdown. I was like, I feel like that's more valuable than predicting fucking, Jahmyr Gibbs to get a touchdown in that touchdown draft last year. But I digress. I think so, too. I think the Falcons have to snap out of this. Minnesota has continued to win games. They've been close, but, just like the Chiefs, they get credit for that. Who do you give the edge for the Brian Flores defense is really hard to prepare for? Kirk Cousins because he got a whole training camp practicing against that, or Brian Flores because he knows the things that might really mess with Kirk Cousins after practicing against him consistently?
I still give the edge to Flores. I just do.
I do too. And I think back to the Lamar versus the NFC thing where the only game that Lamar lost against the NFC was against Wink Martindale, the guy that, coached against him in training camps for years. So I think I give the edge to Flores too. But I feel like the Falcons have to get this win, and they pull one out for Kirk.
Penik? I don't think they do. I think the Vikings win, and I'm really wondering, and Rose, maybe I'll even go to you with this. What do you think the messaging is like in the building right now? Do you really think even with the rumblings that are happening or starting Penik's, the Cousins' future is uncertain? They've lost 3 straight. Some of the interceptions that Cousins have thrown have been really ugly. Do you think in that Falcons building, it's like there's somebody that's behind Kirk being like, hey man, we got you. We got you. Or is it weird, or could it even be a little bit awkward right now, just kind of going about business as normal, even though it is not business as normal in that Atlanta building right now?
I'll say this. There is so much less noise inside of buildings than outside of them. We think that every narrative that we talk about, whether it's on podcasts or talk radio or talking heads on TV, that we think that influences what happens inside of buildings. They are so insulated. They barely know what day it is. So they're not talking about Kirk Cousins and what it's going to mean for next year with Michael Penix. First of all, the players don't give a shit. Like when you think that the players are like, oh man, well, we can we can help our draft stock if we lose this week. Hell no. Because those people lose jobs. That stuff has nothing to do with anything. So they are trying to figure out. You
don't think that there's some players that might want Michael Penix in there?
Now that's a different thing. I can't imagine that they've seen enough out of Michael Penix in practice. So it's not like he's getting 30% of the snaps like Drake May was while he was the backup to Jacoby Brissett in New England. That's not happening. Kirk Cousins is getting all of the snaps. So they've seen very little of Michael Penix. You used to hear when Patrick Mahomes was behind Alex Smith, like, my God, we've got something special. I doubt that that's the deal with Michael Penix here, but I suppose it could be. All right, so Penik, do you have?
Yeah, I have Vikings.
Okay,
Clear.
so Vikings and 2 Falcons. Let's pick the AFC West games real quickly. Seattle at Arizona, Bobby.
Arizona.
I'm also
Bounce
going to
back.
go Arizona. I'm a believer in those Cardinals. I want them to win a division.
Yeah. Kyler Murray does not play well from week 11 on in the NFL. 8-22. That is fourth worst among quarterbacks with at least 25 starts since 1970. Fourth worst. I think that continues. I think Geno and the guys remain in first place. Buffalo on the road at the Rams, Bobby.
I think the Rams get a sneak win in here versus Buffalo. Buffalo riding a little high. I think the Rams are a team that can fire up against anybody. I think the Rams get back on track.
I think Bills are a team on a mission right now. Give me those Bills.
Not only are the team on a mission, they're also going to be the home team this weekend. That happens a handful of times at SoFi Stadium where Matthew Stafford has to take a silent count at home, and that stinks for them. I think the Bills get a big road win. All right, let's pick the rest of these games because we must. Jacksonville without Trevor Lawrence the rest of the year at Tennessee, Bobby.
This is big for the draft order. I'm going to go Tennessee Titans. Tickets as low as $9 if you were thinking about getting after this one. That is the lowest. I think that's something we should track on this every week. What is the cheapest ticket in the NFL this week? This week it's $9 to go to Nashville and watch the Titans and Jags play.
Terrific. I love Nashville. Give me Jacksonville.
Okay.
You're hoping for that. You're not predicting that.
No, I am predicting that.
I will take Tennessee. I can't pick Mac Jones. Aaron Rodgers, who just celebrated his 41st birthday at Miami. Bobby?
The Jets are so done. It's the Dolphins. I'm not picking the Jets against anybody for the rest of the year.
Last time I checked, Miami's warm. Give me the Dolphins.
I'll take the Dolphins as well.
It is
Saints without Taysom Hill the rest of the year at the G-Men, Bobby.
Darren Rizzi returns home to New Jersey and gets himself a win, and the Giants lose 8 straight.
I think Frank Rizzi was an extra in The Sopranos, but yeah, I get you. Penik?
So was Darren
Saints.
Rizzi.
Yeah, Saints.
I will take I'll take the New York Giants. I got Drew Lock, folks. I got your back
$16
on
tickets
that.
if you want to get out there for that one. Justin will be there.
Carolina at Philadelphia. All in favor, say aye on Philadelphia.
Aye.
Cleveland at Pittsburgh, where it hasn't won a regular season game since 2003. Bobby?
That continues. Steelers win.
I agree.
Yeah,
But, hey, can I
unfortunately.
ask you something, Rose? Because
Yeah.
Jameis is obviously this polarizing figure, and everyone's like, he's so fun. He's the funnest guy ever. Is it actually fun having him on your team and playing like that?
It was. I commented on that on social media that it is a totally different experience when you're watching him do this for your team. The problem is that they were so far out of it at 3-8 that a loss you're like kind of numb to it.
Yeah,
So
that's the point. But if you were actually trying to win, this would be like, oh my
Would
gosh,
drive
at least
me
we
nuts.
threw for 400 yards.
No,
I'm like,
no,
this
no.
sucks.
No, nobody would feel that way. I mean, he threw 2 pick sixes and Jerry Jeudy prevented another one. So, Raiders at the Buccaneers, Bobby.
This one means a lot to me because my closest friends are Raiders and Bucks fans, so this decides who gets to win 4 years of shit talking. Tim, I got to give it to you. The Bucks are going to win.
Bucks, win the NFC South, please.
Yeah, the Raiders are just horrible. They haven't won since September. I'm taking the Bucks. Chicago at San Francisco, Bobby.
Rule.
Yeah, I got to go by the rule. Interim head coach, Bears win.
Bears also, they win. Big win.
No way. They will not be winning. San Francisco, it's been 2 terrible weeks at Green Bay and Buffalo. They'll thaw out. They'll actually get a victory here. And finally, Monday night in the Simpsons game, Cincinnati at Dallas, Bobby.
The Bengals will win. They can boat race the Cowboys. The Cowboys can't keep up. Bengals win. If
How do
Dak
the
was here, I'd pick
Cowboys-
the Cowboys, though. But he's
How
not.
do the Cowboys have a better record than the Bengals? Give me the Bengals.
I will take Cincinnati on the road as well. Big shout out to our producer, Connor, coming up big time for Justin Penik. For Bobby Skinner, I am Chris Rose. We will see you next week to break down Week 14 here on Football Today, presented to you by Captain Morgan, the official spiked rum of the NFL.